I stood at the front door of what used to be my home, still wearing the black dress from Dad's funeral. Through the window I saw them, Mom, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Gerald, and my cousins Tyler and Bethany. They huddled around the dining table with papers spread everywhere. Nobody had told me about a will reading. My key didn't work anymore. When I knocked, Mom opened the door with cold eyes I'd never seen before. "You're not welcome here, Diane," she said flatly. Tyler appeared behind her, shoving my packed suitcase into my arms. "Your dad changed everything," Mom continued. "This is for the good of the family." The door slammed in my face. I sat on the curb, numb and confused. My phone buzzed with blocked numbers. Inside my suitcase, I found Dad's old leather journal, the one he always carried. A loose note fell out. "Diane, if you're reading this, protect the box. Everything depends on it. I love you always, Dad." I remembered the box. Dad gave it to me 3 years ago, saying to keep it safe but never open it without him. I'd hidden it in my college dorm closet. Through the window, I saw Aunt Patricia slip a thick folder into the mahogany drawer. She looked around nervously like she was hiding evidence. Back at my tiny apartment, I pulled the box from under my bed. My hands shook as I broke the seal. Inside were yellowed land deeds, original company incorporation papers, and a sealed envelope with my name in Dad's handwriting. The deeds showed Dad owned 4 times more land than anyone knew about. The company papers listed him as sole founder, not a co-founder like Mom always claimed. I tore open the envelope. It was a notarized letter naming me successor to all holdings. But the final page was missing. The document ended mid-sentence, like someone had ripped it out while Dad was writing. I found the number for Mr. Wesley Thompson, Dad's lawyer for 20 years. He agreed to meet me at a coffee shop. "They fired me 2 months before your father passed," he said quietly. "Replaced me with some hotshot connected to your uncle. I saw your mother bringing papers for your father to sign when he was on heavy pain medication. He could barely hold a pen." Mr. Thompson leaned closer. "Diane, if they cut you out, it's because you're the only threat to whatever they're planning. Here." He slid a business card across the table. "Elena Martinez, forensic document specialist. Tell her I sent you." Elena Martinez's office smelled like old paper and chemicals. She examined the box contents under special lights. "This signature page wasn't ripped out," she said, adjusting her magnifying lens. "It was replaced. See these fiber patterns? Someone carefully removed the original and substituted a fake page. The edges don't match the binding holes." She promised to run complete analysis. As I left her building, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street, the same model that used to follow Dad everywhere during his last months. The driver wore sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. My stomach dropped. Tyler called the next morning. "Hey, cousin. We feel terrible about everything. Mom wants to have a peace dinner tonight. Can you come?" His voice sounded rehearsed. Against my better judgment, I went. They sat around the table like mannequins, forcing smiles. Uncle Gerald cleared his throat. "Diane, we've been thinking. We want to give you something." He slid an envelope toward me. Inside was a check for $5,000. "Consider it your inheritance. A fresh start." Pushed it back. "I know about the missing signature page," I said calmly. Mom dropped her fork. Uncle Gerald's face turned purple. Bethany stared at her plate. The silence was deafening. Someone broke into my apartment that night. I came home to find my door jimmied open, papers scattered everywhere. Only the box was missing, the one thing they wanted. But they didn't know I'd spent 3 hours at the copy shop that afternoon, duplicating every single document. Called the police. Officer Burke took my statement, then casually mentioned, "Your uncle called earlier. Said his niece was acting unstable, might be dangerous to herself. Just wanted us aware." My blood boiled. They were trying to paint me as crazy. The frame-up was so obvious it almost made me laugh. Almost. I started building a case file. Bank statements showed luxury purchases right after Dad's death. A boat for Tyler, a new car for Bethany, expensive renovations on Mom's house. Meanwhile, Dad's company hemorrhaged money under their management. I dug through public records and found something shocking. They'd been quietly selling off small parcels of Dad's land, pocketing the cash. Each sale chipped away at the empire Dad built from nothing. They weren't just stealing my inheritance. They were destroying Dad's legacy piece by piece, like vultures picking at a carcass. I took screenshots of everything. The new lawyer's office was downtown in a glass tower. His name was Stuart Burke, and his smile was pure plastic. "Miss Diane, you're confused," he said dismissively when I mentioned the forged documents. "Your father made his wishes clear." I pointed to a brass signature stamp on his desk, Dad's name engraved on it. "Why do you have my father's personal stamp?" he asked. His smile vanished. "That's confidential," he stammered. "I think we're done here." He tried to usher me out, but I'd already taken a photo with my phone. His hands were literally shaking as he closed the door behind me. Elena called with news. "The signature on your succession document was stamped, not handwritten. The ink chemistry dates to approximately 1 week after your father lost motor control in his hands. This is legally admissible proof of forgery." My heart raced. Finally, evidence that could stand up in court. "But Diane," Elena's voice dropped. "Someone called pretending to be you yesterday. They wanted the documents released to them. I didn't fall for it, but they're getting desperate. Be careful." I thanked her and immediately uploaded everything to 3 different secure cloud drives. They wouldn't catch me unprepared again. The county archives building smelled like dust and bureaucracy. The clerk, an older woman named Mrs. Foster, pulled up the digital records. "Oh my," she said, adjusting her glasses. "Your father tried to transfer the land into your name 2 months before he died. But look, someone filed a family objection." She clicked through screens. "Your mother claimed you were estranged, using your absence at college as proof you'd abandoned the family. The objection blocked the transfer." My hands clenched into fists. Mom had weaponized my education against me, using my absence to paint me as unworthy while Dad lay dying. Mrs. Foster handed me the objection documents with sympathetic eyes. As I read through them, my vision blurred with rage. There was my signature on a form stating I declined inheritance due to emotional instability and lack of interest in family affairs. I'd never seen this document before in my life. "This is forged," I told Mrs. Foster. She nodded sadly. "I suspected as much. You seem nothing like the person described here." I paid for certified copies of everything: the attempted transfer, the objection, the forged signature. Each page was another nail in their coffin. I emailed everything to my secure drives immediately. Dad's medical records required a court order to obtain, but Mr. Thompson knew a judge who expedited it. Reading through them broke my heart. Near the end, my relatives had refused certain treatments, claiming they were too expensive and unnecessary. The doctor's notes questioned their decisions multiple times. They deliberately weakened Dad, making him easier to manipulate while they positioned themselves to steal everything. The cruelty of it made me physically ill. I sat in my car for an hour crying and raging. Then I dried my tears and vowed to finish what Dad had tried to protect. Dad's company, Westfield Industries, held open shareholder meetings monthly. I showed up unannounced and sat in the back. Tyler and Bethany stood at the front, presenting expansion plans with obvious nervousness. A shareholder raised her hand. "Where are this quarter's financial statements? We were supposed to receive them 2 weeks ago." Tyler fumbled with papers. Bethany changed the subject. Another shareholder pressed harder. "Are we actually expanding, or are we covering losses?" The tension in the room was thick. People were losing confidence. The empire was crumbling under their incompetence, and everyone could see it. I met with 3 long-time Westfield employees at a diner. Margaret Chen had worked with Dad for 30 years. Your uncle pressured him to sign updated documents during heavy medication, she recalled. Your father tried to refuse, but Gerald threatened to make things difficult for you if he didn't cooperate. Frank Williams remembered a fight he'd overheard. Your dad was yelling, "She's my daughter. She deserves everything I built." Your mother screamed back that you were too young and naive to handle responsibility. Each statement built my case. I recorded everything with their permission, creating an unshakable foundation of truth. Dad owned a cabin 2 hours north on the largest parcel of land. I drove up on a Saturday morning. Inside, everything was covered in dust. I searched for hours before noticing loose floorboards near the fireplace. Underneath was a small safe. Dad's birth date was the combination. Inside I found it, the original signed succession page, Dad's real signature clear and unmistakable. My hands trembled as I held it. He'd hidden his true will here because he knew Mom would tamper with anything left at home. He'd known. He'd seen their betrayal coming and tried to protect me from beyond the grave. Mr. Thompson examined the document under bright lights, checking every detail. "This is authentic," he confirmed. "The signature pressure matches your father's hand. The ink composition is correct for the time period. The paper fibers match the other pages exactly. This legally reinstates you as primary heir to everything." His expression turned serious. "Diane, when they realize what you have, they'll panic. They'll try anything." He was right. That night, Uncle Gerald called 17 times. I didn't answer. Instead, I made copies of the signature page and stored the original in a safety deposit box. Let them panic. Mom called an emergency family meeting. I wasn't supposed to know about it. Bethany accidentally mentioned it in a voicemail meant for Tyler. I showed up anyway. Their faces went white when I walked in. The room erupted in chaos. They were weeks from insolvency, I learned. They needed to sell the remaining land immediately or lose everything. "Sign this waiver," Uncle Gerald demanded, shoving papers at me. "Let us sell or we all go down." I refused. Mom cracked. "We did what we had to do. Your father was going to change everything and leave us with nothing." She'd said too much. I let her keep talking. My phone was already recording when Mom revealed the biggest secret. "We controlled his DNR," she admitted, voice breaking. "We had to make sure he couldn't change his mind about naming you heir. He was too soft on you, always has been." She collapsed into a chair. "We thought you were too young, too soft to run what we built." Uncle Gerald lunged for my phone, but I was faster. "What you built?" I said coldly. "Dad built this alone while you all lived off his success." I walked toward the door. Gerald grabbed my arm. "You'll destroy this family," he shouted. "No," I replied. "You already did that. Have you subscribed to this channel? Please subscribe and click the notification bell for more stories." I submitted everything to Charles Brennan, a legal investigator recommended by Mr. Thompson. He spread the documents across his desk, forged signatures, false objections, manipulated medical directives, fraudulent estate changes. His jaw tightened as he read. "This isn't just inheritance theft. This is a coordinated pattern of elder abuse and fraud." He looked at me seriously. "Are you prepared for what happens next? This will tear your family apart publicly." I thought of Dad's face, the way he'd smiled at me days before he died. "They tore us apart already," I sigh. "I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." He nodded and filed for an emergency hearing. Word spread fast. Shareholders withdrew support. 3 key employees resigned. Banks froze accounts pending investigation. My family showed up at my apartment unannounced, looking desperate. Mom's makeup was smeared from crying. Please, Diane. We can settle this privately. Name your price. Crossed my arms. There is no price for what you did. Uncle Gerald tried a different approach. Think of your cousins' futures. They'll be ruined. I thought of my own future they tried to steal. They should have thought of that before committing fraud. Mom dropped to her knees, actually begging. We did everything for the family name, she sobbed. I stepped back. You did everything for yourselves. The hearing room was packed. A 3-judge panel reviewed every document I'd submitted. The forged signatures. The financial misconduct. The medical interference. When they validated Dad's real succession page, Uncle Gerald stood up shouting about lies and manipulation. The lead judge silenced him. Then they played the audio of Mom's confession. You could hear a pin drop. Mom tried to claim grief had clouded her judgment, that Dad had played favorites by loving me too much. But the evidence was overwhelming. One by one, the panel issued their rulings. Fraud, elder abuse, forgery. I watched my family's faces crumble in real time. Careers end. Reputations shatter. Justice serve. The final ruling came 2 weeks later. I was legally reinstated as rightful heir to all land holdings and controlling interests in Westfield Industries. Tyler and Bethany were removed from their positions. Uncle Gerald was barred from the board permanently. Mom lost all control immediately. Why? The remaining shareholders personally requested I take temporary leadership to stabilize the damage. I accepted, not to save them but to honor Dad. My first board meeting was surreal. These were people who'd dismissed me as a child weeks ago. Now they hung on my every word. I presented a restructuring plan Dad and I had discussed years ago. They approved it unanimously. While reorganizing the main office, I found one last letter tucked into Dad's desk drawer. My name was written on the envelope in his shaky final handwriting. Inside he'd written, My dearest Diane, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and they've tried to take everything. I knew this might happen. That's why I left the real documents in the cabin safe. Because I knew you'd be the only one strong enough to find the truth and fight for it. You've always been braver than you knew. Stand tall. Truth always returns to its rightful heir. I love you forever, Dad. I broke down completely, crying for the first time since his fun era. My first official act as majority owner was restoring Dad's original conservation protections on the land. No development, no selling, preserving it for future generations. My second was sending formal notices barring my relatives from any company involvement or property access. Mom called, voice small and broke. Is there any chance you'll forgive us? She asked. I thought about it honestly. Why? I forgave you already, Mom. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. Actions have consequences. She hung up crying. Last week they showed up at my office. Tyler, Bethany, Uncle Gerald, with nothing left to bargain with. They asked if I'd reinstate them, or provide financial help now that they'd lost everything. I told them I didn't seek revenge, just accountability. I offered them nothing but the truth they'd tried to bury. As they left, I looked out at the land stretching beyond my window. Dad's land, my land now, and realized something important. I hadn't just reclaimed a legate. Why, I'd reclaimed myself. I opened Dad's letter one more time, reading his final words. Stand tall. Truth always returns to its rightful heir. I finally understood. Truth wasn't just about documents and legal battles. It was about having the courage to face betrayal and still choose integrity. Dad had taught me that. And now, standing in the office he'd built from nothing, I knew I'd make him proud. Not by seeking revenge on those who'd wronged me, but by honoring everything he'd worked for and protecting it for those who'd come after. The legacy wasn't just money or lawn. It was the principle that truth matters, that family should mean loyalty, and that some things are worth fighting for no matter the cost. I placed Dad's letter in a frame on my desk where I could see it every day. Outside my window, the sun set over the land he'd loved and protected. The land that was now mine to Guer. I picked up my phone and called the Conservation Trust. I'd like to establish a permanent nature preserve. I sigh. In my father's name. Truth always finds its way home. And so have you been in such a position before, where your own family suddenly became your strongest enemy? How did you deal with If you haven't had such experience, how would you have responded if it happened? What would be your new relationship status with your own mother after justice had been served? Would you reconnect back to mother-daughter relationship? What would you do in such situation? Share your thoughts in the comment. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share with others.